This right here is my 2024 Tacoma Limited. Got it right when it's brand new, a little over 2 years now with about 23,000 miles. One thing I'll say, people worried about the fact that it didn't have V6 anymore, reliability concerns. I've had no reliability issues whatsoever. That's what you're looking for out of long-term review. The only thing I had was recalls, and all those recalls, I didn't experience anything. Now, starting off at, honestly, the worst part about the Tacoma, that's the back seats. Now, the back seats on this, well, it's tight. Let me show you. Now, it's no secret that the Tacoma has pretty tight back seats. Every review says it. To give it credit, I'm sitting by myself, so I'm 6'2"-ish, plus more. Depends on your hair and shoes. And this is the seating position I have in front of me. So, same seating position, 6'2.5", and I fit. My legs are, they'd be touching the seat right here, but I can push them out if I need to. Kind of nuts thing is that this is actually the bigger back seat. The hybrid, actually, you don't get any underseat storage, and you're actually sitting up higher. I have just about this much headroom. You lose a little bit if you get the hybrid, so something to keep in mind. Another thing to keep in mind is that if you have a child seat, so this right here is a rear-facing child seat shown here with just a little bit of a gap, not much. This seat has to go all the way up forward, pretty straight upright. So that is honestly, the worst parts about this vehicle is the back seat. Now, while we're talking about the back seats do not have a center armrest no matter what you get, and there is no rear seat vents. There is some skirt vents underneath the seats for heat, but no rear armrest, no vents. The Toyota 4Runner, which is the exact same car, by the way, does have those things. So I don't know why they skipped it on this vehicle. Maybe they don't think it's much as a family vehicle, but it's pretty compromised here. And that's going to be kind of the biggest con about the Tacoma, or the reason that you'd go to a Tundra, in my opinion, is that if the back seats on this are just not acceptable, not able to work around it, then you have to go up the size. So one thing I love about the new Tacoma in general is I think the interior layout and the buttons and the controls are even better than the Tundra. Especially this right here. This right here is our heated seats, our climate control up and down, right? Heated, cool seats, and all these buttons right here. These buttons right here, they feel great, they look great. Emergency stop right there, and a big chunky volume knob. Honestly, all the controls right here feel big, they feel real solid. You'll never feel like you're just touching anything fragile or weak or loose. I really love how this interior feels. There's also a shelf right here for extra storage. I have my Nurse Ducky right there. And the glove box itself has a pretty good size in general, but honestly, I don't really use that too much. One thing that's unique for the Limited trim is that you get this wood trim, so this kind of walnut veneer. This is the same steering wheel as the 4Runner, the current Tacoma, right? That's what we're in. The Tundra and Sequoia. One thing about the Tundra Sequoia, the badge here is a bit bigger. For some reason that they decided to have this indent and make this smaller. I'm not really sure why they did that. Honestly, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just an aesthetic thing. This plastic, this molded injection plastic, has these fake stitches right here. Make it look a little bit nicer. These switches, these rockers, all these things have worked pretty darn well. I haven't had any issues with any of these. Switchgear in general, all these pretty matte finishes. Everything's kind of like a nice durable plastic. There's nothing shiny or any sort of coating that's going to be tearing off from them with it. And also from the wear of just your fingers on things, I haven't had any issues with that. One thing to note as well, this right here is where front-facing camera, the trailer hitch automatic on-off for the engine, and also where would be the front sway bar and the rear locker. This row of buttons right here, no matter what you do, there will be a blank one. So even if you get a fully loaded one, they may be missing something like the automatic on-off for the hybrid system. So that's not really an option there. This right here, really solid, really sturdy. This is like a rubberized, well, it is a rubberized handle right here with this plastic. It can take a lot of force right here. And the four-wheel drive selector and the mode selector is pretty nice. This center console you see here is wrapped in this Softex leather. This is actually really soft, real nice. The door panel right here is this part right here, the glove box. This is only present when you get a Limited, TRD Pro, or Trail Hunter. If you get any other trim, let's say a TRD Off-Road, and you get the premium package, so you get the big screen right here, right? So you get this big screen, you get this digital rearview mirror, you get the whole 9 yards. you still get hard plastic, like right here where you're touching every day. And in my opinion, that really sucks. So that's one thing you may want to consider. And additionally, even the TRD Pro and Trail Hunter, there is another grade of Softex. So another grade of this leather that Toyota does. What I mean by that, this right here feels pretty good. Feels like a slightly rubberized top grain leather. If you get into a TRD Pro or Trail Hunter and you touch these materials, these Softex trimmed areas, even the seats, it will feel more softer, more like a legitimate leather, or for lack of better comparisons, more like a Lexus would have. Like the softness of it, the texture. There is different grades of Softex, just FYI. When it comes to the center screen, this right here is Apple CarPlay shown on the front. You can use the built-in music, call, navigation for that. This right here, the navigation is built into Toyota's connected services, so there's like a subscription for that. So that's something to note. For it, honestly, everything's been pretty snappy. It's been pretty responsive. It's not as responsive as like your iPhone, but honestly, it's not that far off. And for me, I always leave it in CarPlay. It has wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and that's probably all you need. When it comes to the connection itself, I've had a few times that it would disconnect or have some issues where it would get the audio wrong or switch through there. Me and my wife both connect to the same car, so we usually have those two fighting, so that could be part of it. But let's say once out of 5 drives, we experience a little issue like that, which sounds like a lot, but typically it's more like it went to her phone or my phone instead of the other. Some small things like that, so it's hard to tell. But generally, the screen itself is good. I always recommend, if you are looking at buying one of these Tacomas, is that you start off with the big screen, right? I think this is going to be one of the quickest things that look outdated is the screen itself. There are kits to make you have the 14-inch screen afterwards, but I usually recommend for resale values and other things like that to just get it in the first place. You can get it with a $4 grand option on the TRD Off-Road, TRD Sport. However, those give you the cloth seats. So, driving. How this drives? Well, I think one of the biggest deciding factors for me why I bought this over the Ranger, the Colorado, honestly just an F-150 or a Silverado, all that stuff. One, I like Toyotas. I have a soft spot for them, and I do trust their reliability for that. So that's always a plus. However, the biggest thing is how it drives. So a few things to note. First off, a lot of trucks, the steering is loose. By loose, what I mean is that there's a lot of steering before you're doing much, and it just feels disconnected or just too light. The Tacoma, in particular, has very tight steering, at least for a truck. I mean, this is not a sports car. This is not a GR86. But honestly, the steering is as tight as my Mustang that I had. I had a 24 Mustang GT, and that thing had, mid-sized sedan kind of lightness of steering. It wasn't that bad, regardless. This has pretty precise steering. It's pretty tight for a truck, right? I think this is about as good as you're gonna get. So when it comes to the driving, that and driving dynamics, it's really good. The TRD Sport, which people slip on, its next step up, I guess, when you look at the product line, is the limited trim. And with the adaptable suspension that I have on this one, on the Sport mode, it does handle pretty well. When you get that, though, there is some downside. It is a solid rear axle in the back still, so the back suspension isn't fantastic. So you have that, right? So the ride isn't amazing for it, but as a pick up and go, I don't know, it's not that fast. It's probably around 7 seconds, 0 to 60. I mean, not quick, but not really slow. I don't really ever have a problem with it. The engine for it that people complain about all the time, or posted on about. I honestly love this 4-banger. It makes a little bit of turbo noises, like a little bit of turbo whistle, really faint ones, and it feels kind of like you have a cut straight 6 off a diesel. So I actually like its character. I think it's very industrial feeling, or I don't know, prosumer, or whatever term you want to go. I like how the engine feels. The turbo on it, it's a big 4-banger. Not a small four-banger with turbo, it's a big four-banger with the turbo. And that means there's a lot of get up and go, there's a lot of low-end torque, and it just feels good for it. It doesn't feel lethargic. There's a lot of V6s that are more smooth sounding, but they don't feel that good when it comes to power. So I think pure upgrade when it comes to the four-cylinder. And right here that I'm getting just 21 mpg on average with this truck, which, you know, you can get better. You can get like a hybrid V6 out of a F-150 and you're probably going to get better, but for a non-hybrid four-banger or just the mid-size segment in general, this is really good. The road noise isn't terrible. Like we had a RAV4, 2020 RAV4, and this thing is quieter than that. So it's quieter than like a low-trim compact SUV, HRV, RAV4, but barely, maybe a little worse than some of those for it. So kind of a context, it's a little loud for it, and especially if you have one that's lifted up. The limited trim I have comes lifted from the factory at 11 inches. That's not the standard ride height. I think it's like 9.5 for the standard ride height. And especially if you run that, get rid of that chin on the front, which looks terrible, and it's just a few bolts to get off, it will make some noise. There's actually some control arms underneath where the skid plate would be that you can plug up, and they'll get rid of some whistling noise. So if you do have that whistle at, like, let's say 30-40 miles per hour, and you took off that front spoiler, you're going to want to get these little these like flush-in caps you get. They're like the 3/4 of an inch. You can plug in there, and that will get rid of a lot of noise. Part of the reason I got skid plates actually was to be more aerodynamic in the sense of making less road noise. So when it comes to driving for this vehicle, driving overall, the adaptive cruise control, the lane keep assist, all that stuff is fantastic. I love it. Truly, I think it's great. The worst thing about, you know, I guess the slightly stiffer suspension is not a really big deal for me. That may be something you want to look into, but I wouldn't call it stiff. I would just say a little firmer, a little bit more competent. The biggest con for me, how this drives day to day, is that nobody really mentions that this turning radius is awful. And I mean horrible. I had a colleague who has a full-size Ram 1500, and he did a U-turn in a spot that I know I could not make in this. So I need like 2.5 lanes to make a U-turn, really 3 for this vehicle, which, you know, for a full-size truck, that's not a huge deal. But for a mid-size truck, I didn't expect that. And there's a lot of full-size trucks that can make turns that this can't. So in a parking lot, that's probably the most annoying thing that there is. Final thoughts on it. I do think the Tacoma is the best driving truck that there is, at least mid-size truck. I didn't drive the Rivian or the Ineos, but I've driven Ranger, Colorado, the Canyon, the Frontier, all those. And this vehicle just drives better than any other mid-size vehicle of its price range for it. So it drives better for it, and honestly, the interior is the best. Interior material, some of it's really hard plastics, right? And the limited trim gives you some, you know, soft materials where it's acceptable, but it feels rugged, it feels solid, it'll feel like it'll last for 20 years and still look brand new afterwards, and it's not going to look that out of date. I think like a Ranger with its Ford Ranger with its vertical screen is going to look outdated pretty quick, but it's just very usable and very practical. And there's a lot of neat gizmos, like the pop-up JBL speaker, the rear seat storage. That's, you know, I don't recommend the hybrid necessarily. I wouldn't spend that much money for 1 mpg better. Base engine, plenty powerful, weighs a lot lighter, and that rear seat storage, I would keep it. I would just keep it if you can. So all in all, I do recommend this vehicle. I think it's great. I do think it's a bit expensive though, because in my opinion, I would skip the cloth seats, because Toyota cloth seats, in my experience, stain pretty badly. So you're gonna be in the 50s, which is big boy money. And considering that, and with the back seats, and also some things like this doesn't have memory seats. 4Runner does, by the way. I don't know why they're doing this, but things like that. Besides that, it's a great truck. Really like it a lot. Appreciate my time with it, and I intend to have it for some time to come. So if you have any questions about it, anything comes up, any issues I run in the future, I'll post it down in the comments below. So feel free to like, subscribe, and I'll catch you around the next one for some new fun stuff coming up. Thanks.